Recording in progress.
Things going on. First in our agenda, we have a bunch of meeting minutes to approve. We have a public hearing continuation on releasing a lot for the Loring Court subdivision. We have a ZBA petition. We have a discussion of some window treatments downtown. We have another ZBA petition. Then we're going to dive into our favorite subject, which is MBTA 3A. So, any updates for the board before we dive into meeting minutes?
Just a moment of thank you to Sally Dale and I Ching Scott for joining us for their last meetings. I will not cry, but so grateful for mentorship and participation, and all the knowledge that goes with you is going to be sorely missed.
Well, we're not going very far.
That.
We're not going very far, and you're very welcome, and we can be helpful.
I know, but
yeah, thanks.
Thank you.
I was going to end our meeting tonight with a huge thank you to I Ching, and especially Sally, who has done just an extraordinary amount of work over the last year and a half.
It's been such a pleasure and honor to serve with you guys. You can still do that.
I also want to, something that perhaps not a lot of people know, Brian Manter, our assistant town engineer, is moving on. And so we will sorely miss him and his steady guidance and help during our planning board meetings. Brian was unusual in that he showed up even when he didn't have to, and I really appreciate that. So Matt, I know Brian probably didn't want to be here and you took over for him, but please give the board's appreciation to Brian, and we wish him really well in his future endeavors. So, if there's nothing further, why don't we...
I do have an update.
Please.
I meant to mention this to the board, but somebody from Josh Bears from Climate Action Advisory Committee contacted me because they have a fall meeting warrant that they want to present for the various committees later, but it's just to notify you all that they're hoping to get the town to commit to an opt-in energy code, so a higher standard of energy efficiency for new buildings, and in that way, I think the town would be able to gain. Also, just to build it.
Hey folks, I seem to have a really unstable internet at the moment.
I didn't hear what each.
No, I didn't hear anything.
I went a little sci-fi partway through that.
Okay, it's somehow I Ching.
Really? Oh my gosh.
We didn't hear what you said.
No, we heard up until higher standard for energy efficiency for buildings, and then we lost it.
Oh my goodness, I'm so sorry. No, so they want to do a town warrant, a warrant article in the fall meeting, town meeting, so that the town could commit to asking for an opt-in code. So really one of the highest standards of energy efficiency for new buildings. And that would in turn gain us some opportunities to get some grants from the state for various environmental upgrades and things like that.
Okay, thank you. Any further updates?
Well, I'll make my two very quick. They're just FYIs. I don't know if we have a name, but we've chosen an economic development consultant based off of interviews that we had last week. We've chosen RKG. We'll be going through the contract process with them to determine if they still want to move forward. I think Dia was on that call. I think RKG was definitely the most advantageous of all 7 proposals that we got. This, as a reminder, this economic development consultant will be a 2-year project working with the planning department, the planning board, the select board, the chamber of commerce, and town manager to boost economic success of businesses downtown through better planning and better marketing. So that's one update. The other is the downtown improvement plan. For those who know, the downtown improvement plan is a proposed plan done by Tool, or proposed study and plan done by Tool to widen sidewalks downtown, do a little bit of traffic calming, overall improve the infrastructure downtown. And that's ongoing. We're starting with more community meetings in April. I don't think that the planning board has really sat down and seen all of it. So that's more to come on that in April. And those are my 2 updates. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you. So why don't we jump in and do some meeting minute approvals? So our first one is from, I've lost my copy of the document.
Give me a sec. I'm sharing the wrong thing.
February 27th, 2024. Are there any comments or corrections, please?
I have minor edits on pages 4 and 5.
Okay.
So at the top of page 4, the ZBA petition for 231 Main, and it says, it's like the 4th line down, the proposed addition of a wall stair to lessen the slope of the land towards the abutters is to allow, because it's not a full sentence unless you make it say that. It's top of the 4th page. Sorry.
Which date? Sorry.
February 27th, 4th page, top of the 4th page. The end of the sentence that starts on the 4th with the 3rd line. No, the end of the sentence that starts on the 4th line, it starts the proposed addition of a retaining wall to lessen the slope of the land towards the abutters is to allow more water to infiltrate into the ground. It's just, it was, wrong tense of the verb or whatever. And then 1 line down from that, towards the right side of the page, is located within. It's just a typo. And then on the 5th page, right at the end where it says Chair Jarius requested this document be updated with comments, I wanted to say this is about the zoning for 3A. I wanted to ask if it should say requested this draft document be updated with comments, because at this point we were still working in draft. And other than that, I don't have any edits.
Okay. Anything from anyone else? If not, I would welcome a motion to approve the minutes of February 27th, 2024 as amended.
So moved.
Is there a second?
A second.
Okay, roll call vote. I Ching,
Aye.
Nick,
Aye.
Gary,
Aye.
Sally.
Aye.
I say aye as well, and if you could please pass those edits on to Nancy, that would be great. Our next one is on March 5th, 2024. Any comments or corrections?
I have none.
Anyone else?
Nope.
Then I would welcome a motion to approve minutes of March 5th, 2024.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, roll call vote. Sally?
Aye.
Carrie?
Aye.
Nick?
Aye.
I Ching? I Ching. I Ching seems to be frozen again.
Uh-huh.
Aye.
Okay, there we go.
Aye.
I say aye as well.
Aye.
Thank you.
Aye.
Aye. You only got one vote, I Ching. I'm sorry.
Darn it.
Okay, our next one is Tuesday, March 12th. Any corrections or comments?
I have none.
Okay. Could I get a motion to approve minutes as of the March 12th, 2024 meeting?
So moved.
And is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Let's go through the vote. Nick?
Aye.
Carrie?
Aye.
I Ching?
Aye.
Sally?
Aye.
And, oh boy, they just keep coming. We've got one for Thursday, March 14th. Any comments or corrections?
I have none.
And anyone else? Okay. Motion to approve minutes of March 14th, 2024.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Nick?
Aye.
Carrie?
Aye.
Sally?
Aye.
I Ching?
Aye.
I say aye as well. Oof. So thank you much, Nancy, for this, putting up with this incredible stream of meetings that we've gone through lately. So really appreciate your efforts and excellent notes as usual. So we are now almost exactly on time, which is remarkable. But don't draw anything from that. We still have a couple hours to go. So we're continuing our public hearing on the amendment to the definitive subdivision of Loring Court. Could I get a motion to open that hearing?
So moved.
And is there a second?
Second.
And let's go through that as well. Sally?
Oh, to open the hearing, aye.
Carrie?
Aye. Aye.
I Ching?
Aye.
Nick?
Aye.
I say aye as well. So, who do we have with us in the interested parties? Can anyone who is here for Loring Court please raise your hand?
Were they notified of the hearing? Oh, there's someone here. Good.
It was continued from the last one. So yeah, so we have, so Taylor, if you could make sure those people have the ability to speak. So when we last left the subject, the board had given direction to town council to come up with a revision to the tripartite agreement to allow the release of lot 1 without any change to the escrow, and to also require that other lots be released according to the original agreement, as well as some conditions on when everything would be finished. Taylor, did I say everything correctly there? Is there anything I missed in terms of what we need to go through there?
The major thing that we're reviewing tonight is having the planning board vote on whether they accept the new tripartite agreement or not.
Right, and so there was a copy in the packet, and there was a copy you sent out today that later this afternoon. Taylor, are those the same, or are they?
Yeah, they're the same ones. I just couldn't remember if I put them in the packet or not, so I sent it again just in case. And but yeah, so it's the same one that's in the packet.
Okay,
and it's
right.
the same one that's on the screen now.
First, are there any, before, I just want to get comments from the board, and then we'll go to counsel for Mr. Murray, which is Mr. Tarby, and Adam Marchionda. You'll have to remind me who you represent. My apologies. But any comments from the board?
Well, my comment is that I got this at 7:07 this evening, didn't know it was in my inbox at 7:32, and I haven't read it.
Okay. It was in your packet, but that was probably buried.
It was in the packet?
Yeah, it was in the packet.
I've had this happen a lot lately. Oh,
Yeah,
it's
that
fine.
happens.
Whatever.
Any other comments from the board? I mean, I think this is, my reading of it is it is substantially what was discussed, going through all of the legalese.
The only things that I have in my packet are the minutes and the documents associated with the 351 Church, Ridge Street.
Or the paper packet or the emailed packet?
I didn't pick up my paper packet. I thought there wasn't one.
If you look at page 17 of your packet, there's a revised packet. I'm not sure. I'm looking at the revised packet.
Yeah, I'll find the email with the revised packet. Thank you. One
Yeah,
moment.
it's, yeah. So any comments while Sally's doing that? Any other comments from the board?
So when we discussed this last week, I think there was some back and forth. I recall being against it, but the rest of the board voted for. Is that a correct recollection?
That's my recollection as well. And I think that we actually have the minutes with us
Right.
that we could refer to.
Okay.
I'm gonna have to
We've
abstain.
since got a number of community, I guess, comments. I don't know whether, I think Carrie might have had a conversation with a resident, an abutting resident who reached out to us. So we should at least, I guess, find out what their position is as well.
I did. It's the same resident that I represented at the last meeting, Anthony Pronsky. I've spoken to him 2 more times since then. I'm looking for his address. He lives on Loring, right next to the turnoff for Loring Court. Sort of same concerns. He wants to make sure that if we're updating, if we're sort of making the adjustment that we update to November 23rd of this year, that it's done and the vehicles are out of there. He had questions about furniture that's been moved out of that first lot, so he doesn't know if that. I think he just had questions about that, and then he had concerns that it had been used as a staging area for, I think, National Grid work was what he thought, although I think it was Devereaux construction vehicles that were there. So he didn't know if that would continue to be an area that was used for other projects, even if this one's not active. I think he basically just wants his neighborhood to be quiet, complete, and free of construction vehicles as soon as possible. So, any reassurance we can have that this date is going to hold, I think would be helpful.
I mean, is there any assurance that the date would hold? I mean,
We have the money in
I guess
escrow.
objectively speaking.
We have the agreement in number 3 of the updated agreement that no release of lot 2 or 3 will be issued until the work's completed in compliance. And we ratify the tripartite as written before. I don't know
Okay.
what else we can do.
Not to
That's
put
a
you on the
pretty large
spot for
number.
it, but I just.
No, I think I've heard a good amount from that, at least that one neighbor. And I think that, in talking to him, it's sort of, we can't, I don't think leaving a half completed lot is any more advantageous to him than allowing it to be completed. We just have this pressure now from the neighborhood to make sure it stays high on the priority of the developer.
I just want
Yep.
to chime in, just if I may. Devereaux Construction is a subcontractor for National Grid, who is working on Loring Ave during gas main replacement. I'd suggest the resident reach out to DPW just if they have additional questions or concerns. I'm not
I think it was more that the lot
super
was not
familiar
being
with
used
that,
for
the work
anything, so it was
doing,
right
but-
for being staging area. Sorry.
Sorry, there were 2 people
Okay.
speaking at once, I think.
Matt, you said he should reach out to the DPW.
If he has questions, they can either answer them or direct him to a contact at National Grid if it's related to the gas main work that's happening on Loring Ave.
I agree, and that work was wrapped up. I think his concern
Okay.
is that if it's an empty lot, it's available for staging, and that might happen again. He's worried that would happen again.
Okay.
Wow.
So,
Dave, we did receive one further comment from an abutter by phone, which the abutter expressed his displeasure in the pace at which the process has gone, but has expressed his support in getting it done as quickly as possible at this point, regardless of what has happened historically, just moving forward so that their road can be back to normal as quickly as they can. That's the only other comment that I'm aware of receiving about this, and that was by phone.
okay, thank you very much. So why don't we now, so I think the abutters, I think, want this done as quickly as possible and to as high a level of quality as possible. So a couple of things. So if we could open it up to Joseph Tarby, you are representing Mr. Mueller. Could you comment on the use of the lot as a staging area for other contractors?
Yeah, there's no stages. The equipment being used there, no staging.
No, Mr. Murray indicates that the equipment is being used there. There's no staging that he's aware of by his crew.
Okay, so no other party is using your land as a staging area.
Not to our knowledge.
Yeah.
Okay.
That doesn't sound consistent with what Matt Schuman just said about.
Yeah, because we have, on lot 1, that house is ready to be occupied. Lot 2 is under construction. And then lot 3,
There's nothing on lot 3.
yeah, there's nothing going on at lot 3 right now.
I think I might have misunderstood the comment. I thought it was just related to vehicles parked on the streets for construction, not specifically lay down. I can't speak to that.
Jerry, did I misquote what you said?
No, you all have, I think, the right. I don't have pictures of the incident. I know that the work is completed and the vehicles are gone. It was a sort of like this has happened. Is this going to happen again? Concern from an abutter, and I think it was an added frustration to him because he felt like it was a lot that no one was sort of paying attention to. So it was available for trucks that were working, I think it was the project either Loring or Cross Street. So it was a bit ago. So it's just, one more point from the neighbors that they would like this to just be a normal neighborhood as soon as possible.
Right.
Okay. Let's get back.
I see hands still up.
Okay. Whose hands are up?
Adam and Joseph.
Right. So we're speaking with Joseph Tarby now, and Adam Marchionda. Can you tell us what your position is related to this project?
Sure. My name is Adam Marchionda from Marchionda and Associates, and I am the engineer of this project.
Oh, okay.
So-
Thank you.
We're here tonight to answer any questions that, if there are any questions relating to the engineering aspect of it.
Okay, thank you.
welcome.
So I think we get down to the meat of the tripartite, and so Mr. Murray and Mr. Tarby, you've had a chance to look this over. Is this, presumably, I don't know if you've worked with town council on this, or is this the first time you've seen this?
No, we did receive a draft from town council. We've reviewed it, and we have no issue with the revision that was made by town council. We're good with this document.
Okay, so I just want to, I'm going to go back to our minutes, because I know that there were a number of things that were stated Hold on one second. I forget what date it was.
I think it's the March 5th minutes. It's like page.
Right. Okay. So, the amendment was, we moved to approve the amendment with these conditions. Oh, you've got it there. Yeah. One of which was to, let's make sure those conditions are met, to define the date of completion. For some reason, I can't zoom it in. Come on. Define dates to comply with the subdivision agreement, and these have been updated to November 23rd of 2024, I believe is the date. Assurance of completion. So what do we have in terms of assurance of completion? Well, if they're not completed by that date, then the permit runs out. And we do have, the town still will not release the remaining lots until everything is complete. We have completion of the infrastructure by a specific date. Again, I believe that will be the closeout of this, November 23rd, 2024. Completion of the revised tripartite agreement with town council. We have that document. Town council review of the HOA. This is not a document that I have seen come by. So have you folks come up with an HOA and have you submitted it to town council?
Yes, we submitted this first in a memorandum dated March 1st of 2024 to the board, town planner, town engineer, assistant town engineer, and town council, where we submitted a number of documents, including the proposed HOA. My understanding is that everything is in order with the HOA.
Okay, I apologize. I meant to say I hadn't seen anything recently. Yes, you did send them in. My apologies. Taylor, do you have any more information on town council's approval? Because I don't recall seeing anything from him on it.
That is correct. There were no updates to that document requested by town council.
Okay, so town council has signed off on it then, as far as you know.
Yeah. The tripartite agreement that we're viewing is the only one that had updates or edits to it.
Okay. Another of the conditions was milestones, including certificate of occupancy for the houses and finishing the road work. I don't believe that we've made any. We've created any milestones.
Milestone dates, you mean?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that, please?
You mean milestone dates, right?
Yes, and well, I think also description of what should be complete. So we want to make sure this project comes along, and so one way we could do is simply wait until the end of November and say that's the milestone. Does the board have any concrete intermediate stages that they would like to suggest?
I think I'm just confused about the third lot. If there's no interest, there's no potential customer, whatever, there's no plan to develop the third lot, doesn't that make all of this indefinitely open?
I think there are plans. If Mr. Tarby, you want to comment on that, or Mr. Murray?
Yeah, could you just repeat that, Ms. Dale?
Yes, I heard you. I thought I heard you say that there was nothing planned yet for the third lot, and so if I understand the way that this agreement is being amended, you're saying that the agreement permits you to release lot 1, continue construction on lot 2 and 3, get everything done, including the final improvements to the public realm by November of 24. And I just heard you say a moment ago that there wasn't really anything planned for lot 3 right now. And would it just stay open as an empty lot while the road was being finished by November 23rd of 2024?
Yeah, the lot, the house on that lot is not under construction, and as town council stated at the last meeting, that completion of the subdivision plan would be completion of everything that's on the plan, including the curbing, the paving, the landscaping. And I know it's Mr. Murray's intention to get in there. You can't start paving until at least April 15th. To get in there and start putting down the binder coat, putting in the granite curbing. And I think the incentive that we have is, condition 3 in the amended agreement that no release of lot 2 or 3 shall be issued until the work has been completed in compliance with the subdivision approval, definitive subdivision plan, and the agreement.
Right.
And then on top of that, we're not looking for any reduction in the security by the release of this lot.
Okay.
So I will say this: I've represented Mr. Murray for many years, and he has never not completed the subdivision. He's going to be living in town. He's going to be easy to find, and I'll give you my guarantee that he'll finish this.
That's a remarkable offer by you, but I'm afraid I don't know if our residents would take this. Would be happy if we just accepted that. So is the plan? I mean, the completion of the subdivision requires completion of the buildings on lots 2 and 3. Is my
According
understanding?
to the original agreement.
Yes. So you are planning. I'm sorry. Someone speaking? Okay. So my understanding then is that you will be putting a house on lot 3.
Correct.
Okay. So there will be a house on lot 3. In order to complete the subdivision, all of the work will have to be done by the 23rd of November. So I think hopefully that assuages your concern, Sally, that it will not be an empty lot, that they will complete the work.
Oh, it sounded like it would be an empty lot, but all the other work that's shown on the subdivision definitive plans, which is all the road work and utilities and infrastructure work, would be done. But they wouldn't build a house on lot 3 because they don't necessarily have a buyer by then.
The reason we're here is because the way the subdivision agreement was written is that they would have to complete all of the work, which includes building of the houses.
Right, but if you see number 3, it says that lots 2 and 3 will not be released until all of the capital W work has been done.
That's correct.
And the capital W work is being promised to be done by November 23rd of 2022, or 2024, excuse me. So if all that work, capital W work, is completed by that date, then and only then can lots 2 or 3 be released, right?
I mean, I don't know enough about construction to impose rules about what has to be completed, but why don't we just require them to come back at 4 months? You know, it's about 8 months from now to the end of November. So why don't we just require a meeting at 4 months with a status update? And then we'll see what has to happen. Is that?
Well, the definition of work is the key issue here.
That's what I mean. I don't know if we're going to be able to say.
Well, the reason why we're here is because the definition of work includes completion of the houses.
According to the original agreement?
Yes.
Is that
That's
possible?
why we are here, because they were unable, they need special permission to release a lot because they have not completed all 3 lots.
So is it possible to complete them by the end of November? Complete them, houses built. I don't know enough about timelines.
We've heard from Mr. Murray and Mr. Tarby that is their intention.
So I just think I think one of our big hanging questions is what interim requirements can we put in place to make sure this project stays on track so that we don't reconvene at the end of November and find out we're nowhere near the end line. So if we just get a status update, if nothing's happened at the end of July, we're halfway through the agreement and we need to come up with But if they're
Okay.
on track, house 2 is, progressing, house 3 is started. I don't know what we're looking for, but it seems like that's
That
at least an
seems-
accountability point.
Okay, so let's set up, I think, so one suggestion is to require an update. And can we do the math? So it's, you said, well, it's April, May, June, at the beginning of August, I guess, would be 4 months from essentially, so it's the month of April, the month of May, month of June, the month of July.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it would be at the beginning of August.
I think that's a good suggestion.
So that's a check-in, but it's not. So, does the board want to have anything more concrete, or is that sufficient?
What would an option for something more concrete be?
Well, driving by today, it seemed like House 2 had all its envelope sort of up. And I would think that by August, you would have the concrete poured for the foundation and see that third house getting at least started, if not framed.
Okay, so, but that's, I think, I don't know that that's, I'm back with Carrie's. I don't know how well we could, I don't know that they could promise that it would be done by the end of August, by the end of July.
I would think that in August, you would have seen some kind of attempt to start this house, right? And not just an empty lot.
Okay. So, if that's, I mean, I'm at a loss. There's nothing. I don't know that we can mandate any other particular thing. We did ask that there be some investigation of what could be done to mitigate some of the effects on their neighborhood. So that's a separate condition. So if we, we did write in this a milestone, including certificate of occupancy for the houses and finishing the road work. I think we've all understood that finishing the road work is probably the last thing to be done. The certificate of occupancy, presumably by August, we would have an idea whether the second house would be ready to get inspected for that. So I think we're just asking for an update in August might be sufficient. If the board is happy with that, I'll move on to the next one.
Well, so by August, to I Ching's point, they would have already broken ground and be building the house on lot 3, right? Just in terms of how long it takes to build a house. It takes more than 4 months to build a house. More than 3 months.
Yeah, I would think so, but maybe just ask that they provide some updates on attempts. Like, what are the attempts at building this house?
I'm sorry. My connection is going bad again.
It might be me again, but have it the onus be on the developer to show steps towards that, whatever it might be.
Right.
Okay, so more than just an update, an actual showing that there has been some sort of advancement towards, I mean, I don't.
Yeah, I'm assuming an update would have photos of, we would be able to drive by, we would have the neighbors, invited to raise concerns. It's a time point where we can all check in and plan for accountability if it's not happening.
Yeah, I don't know that we can ask for more than that, given that the construction cycle is complex these days. So,
right.
One thing I would suggest is that if you come to that check-in in August and there's absolutely no concrete plan to develop the third lot of the subdivision, that at least they maintain it as mowed grass. We have a number of not abandoned, but delayed subdivision or construction projects in town that the property just ends up being a wasteland of dust and dirt, and that is not something that would be suitable for the neighbors.
So why don't I add this, and then I mean by the beginning of August, I think the ability to show some sort of a schedule for completion of the third house should be possible. So why don't we'll have a check-in, and if that third house hasn't begun, the construction hasn't begun, we'd like to see a firm schedule on how they're going to accomplish what needs to be done. So why don't we add just a schedule to show how they're going to meet the closing date of 2020 of 11/23.
24.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay. And then moving on to the next item, which was, so this is where we asked, and I don't think that we did it on our end, for engineering to determine some immediate and long-term remediations, which could be done prior to the finish of this work, just so that the neighbors would see some improvement. And I hate to put you on the spot here, Matt, but anything that you could think of that could be advanced without negatively affecting, and this would be in terms of streets or paving or erosion or dust control.
Yeah, I think I heard Mr. Tarby or Mr. Murray talk about putting the binder down after April 15th. I think that would get the road surface established. The binder's the first layer, the lower layer of the pavement. So, it's certainly up to them to schedule their work, but that would probably be a good start. And then certainly making sure erosion controls are, I haven't been out there to be honest in a while, but making sure erosion controls are up to date. If there's any exposed soil, if there's a potential for seeding it, especially as Sally said, if work isn't going to be happening for a while, I think those are things that they could look into.
Okay, so I've got down that, a binder would be going down after April 15th, and maybe then if engineering could do a field visit after that and take a look at the property and see if there's anything else you could recommend.
Sure.
Okay. Thank
The
you.
only other thing that I had mentioned, and it's reflected in the notes where it says tracking dirt, I just know from job sites, maybe perhaps bigger ones, that they do a lay down of this really rocky, coarse rock. I think it's called Crusher Run or something. But when you drive the trucks exiting the site over that stone, it does a job of cleaning most of the dirt and mud stuck in the big treads. And keeping that from going onto the street. It keeps it on the job site. And we did do a drive-by, and I did notice that there was some tracking of dirt on the street, but I didn't see it as being horrible. I'm curious if the neighbors have complained about that particular issue. Carrie, did that person that you spoke with mention it?
I don't think so.
Okay. Well, if it's not a big deal, but the fact is, if engineering goes out there and sees that there's a lot of dirt being tracked onto the road, they might want to consider a tire clean-off section exiting the job sites. That's all I have.
Okay, so let's add that to Matt's work. Hopefully you'll get your new assistant engineer by then, but I doubt it. It's only 2 weeks from now. So that, and then the only other condition, I think that was the last condition. Hold on a sec. I actually lost the notes again. Okay.
The last bullet is developer to implement mitigating strategies in cooperation with the neighborhood to improve conditions during construction, noise, dust, dirt, tracking dirt.
Okay.
Well, I guess that's
So
right.
why don't we have a mini summit after Matt goes out and checks the site, so we have a better idea of what's actually happening. And of course, if any of the abutters have concerns, they should definitely contact us or engineering to let us know what to look for.
Yes.
So with those, I think we came up with one request to have an update at the beginning of August. And at that point, if the third house has not begun completion. We'd like to see a concrete schedule for how it's going to get completed. And at that point, we also want to see a schedule on how they're going to be closing out all of the rest of the requirements for the subdivision closeout over the next 4 months. So we'll be looking for a meeting with you folks at the beginning of August. And the other thing I've got down here is that engineering is going to go out after April 15th, after the binder's down, let's put it that way, and take a look and see what possible. I'm sorry, please, once again.
You're just responding to an echo, Diab. There's no one talking.
Oh, well, that's sad. So anyway,
Yeah, the date in August would be Tuesday, August 6th.
okay. So those are the conditions of the board. If there are no other concerns about the tripartite, then I think we're ready to vote. So we would be voting on approval of the amendment to the tripartite agreement as shown in the document that we looked at earlier. Is there a motion to the with those conditions I just read? Is there a motion to that? Was that you, I Ching?
So the motion would be that the planning board would be voting to accept this amendment to the tripart agreement. And the tripartite agreement is dated, according to the one I have in my file, February 20, no, that's not right. July 20th of 2022.
Well, the amendment is what we're voting on this evening, so
Right,
that's what's...
the amendment is to this agreement. It doesn't even say in the document what the amendment is to, but I understand that it's that. Is that right? It's an amendment.
Whatever is in front of us right now, and that's on the screen.
Yeah.
So we can just simply state that the amendment to the tripartite agreement that was presented to the planning board on the March 26th. We would move that, we would endorse that, and the conditions that I read out earlier. That would be the motion. So no one is willing to make that motion?
I'll make the motion.
I mean, we voted 4-1 to move forward with this last time. So if you have any concerns that...
This was prepared by Jay Tellerman, our counsel?
Yes, it was.
It was reviewed and agreed upon by the respective council. Okay.
And so the amendments that we just talked about, do they need to be added before we approve this, or will this be approved?
This is what we're voting on. We're voting this, we are approving this amendment to the tripartite agreement.
So
Okay.
what was the list that you just came up with? It's the conditions of our vote?
Last time we voted to move forward with certain conditions, some of which would have to be detailed in the tripartite agreement. So I went through those list of conditions to see whether they were indeed met by the revised agreement. And so I went through each of them and I read off my opinion as to whether they were met by the revised agreement. And there were a couple which required further discussion, as in, milestones or remediation, which we discussed. So that's why I brought those up, to make sure that the conditions we voted on last time were fulfilled. There seems, I'm sensing there's some confusion on the board, and I don't understand it. So if you could...
I think my confusion is that all of this is happening without us understanding the specific things that are being amended. If you go to page 2 of this document, I'm,
We are releasing a lot.
Occupancy permits may not be granted until delineated infrastructure work has been completed. And I guess I'm confused about why we're not looking also at the original documents to understand the impact of this. I mean, I know the intent of the whole subdivision control is that people don't come in, rip up land, build one house, and leave everything lying fallow to weeds for years. So the idea is to get it a clean delivery to the town.
So that's actually, subdivision control is typically only concerning the delineation of lots and public ways. It doesn't have anything to do typically with whether a house is built on those lots.
But the agreement for this development did have that?
Yes, it did have this, and so that's why this is special. So the tripartite agreement, and I see that James Errico would like to speak. We'll get you in a second. This tripartite agreement essentially it releases Lot 1, as we discussed, and it sets the completion date for November 23rd of this year.
And completion is defined as completion of the work, capital W and number 3. And I was just going back in my files to try to understand what is the work. And
as I mentioned earlier, the work is the construction of all 3 houses on the lots. And the completion and the road and all of that thing.
And the infrastructure. And then we would come back in August and they would say, well, we're really good on the second house and we're really good on the infrastructure and the road, but we know we're not going to have a house on the 3rd lot completed by November 23rd. And then what is the consequence of that?
That will be determined at that meeting. I think it's premature to think of a consequence without understanding the progress that's been made then.
Right.
And don't forget that the town does not have to release those 2 lots, and therefore they don't get a certificate of occupancy. So
right.
That's a pretty big lever.
Okay.
And a house is already being built on lot 2.
Right.
Houses are being on lot 2.
If Carrie moves that, then I can second it.
Well, since no one moved it, we do have.
Oh, I thought Carrie moved it.
I did move it.
I'm sorry, I got confused there. We do have one of the abutters who wishes to speak. Does the board want to
Yes.
break off for a second? So, Mr. Errico, if you could, Taylor, is he able to unmute himself? Go ahead, please.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Yep. I apologize. I got on a little bit late, but I heard something a little while ago about Lot 3 may or may not be built. Is the intent of this agreement that Lot 2 would not be released until Lot 3 was built? That's the way I read it?
That is the way that the board sees it as well.
Okay.
That all of the lots must be completed. If we go back to the original agreement, lots 1, 2, and 3, if we release lot 1, then we are going back and saying that lots 2 and 3 must be completed before the lots can be released.
Yeah. Okay. All right. That was I was a little confused, but if that's the way that's the intent, and that's the way the planning board interprets it, I'm okay with that.
Okay. Thank you. So let's dial back to, and I apologize, Carrie, you had made a motion.
Yep, I moved to approve it with a poorly formalized expectation that they will come to an interim meeting and that the remediation suggested by engineering, if any is needed, is addressed.
Okay. And is there a second for that?
I second it.
Okay, so let's do a roll call vote on that. Nick? Are you still with us, Nick?
Yeah, he's there, but it's muted.
I'm going to vote against still.
Okay. Sally?
I'll say aye.
I Ching?
Aye.
Carrie?
Aye.
I'll say aye as well. Thank you very much. And we will
Thank you.
see, we will be in contact with you, probably in a month after engineering takes a look and later on, in August. So good luck getting
Okay,
things
thank
moving.
you very much for your time.
So let's go back to our schedule. We're now looking at, we're about 12 minutes late. So we're going to be looking at the CBD number 30, Church Street Design Review. Do you want to lead this off on this, Taylor, please? Oh, who do we have here from, could you raise your hand if you're here for this?
She was waving. It was Celine.
Okay, and Taylor, if you could make sure they all have the opportunity to unmute themselves. So, Taylor, do you want to lead off on this, please?
Yep. So this project 3032 Church, they came to us. Take a look at my notes. They came to the planning board on February 27th, 2024, for their pre-application meeting. The planning board approved their submission with the following waivers: 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, 9, 11, 12, 13, and 14. This building is not a historical building. This is only design review, not site plan review. And this was reviewed by both historical and by design review committee, who both unanimously suggested the approval of the project.
So we're in view of getting this done and getting us back on time.
Well, let's see, is there, do you folks want to, I know you gave us a presentation last time. Do you want to give us a refresh?
Sure, I can jump in on that, and we can kind of run through the presentation real quick. In the interest of time, I won't dwell too long on it, but happy to refresh anything that's needed. But moving forward, as we scroll through, the addition is on page 4 of this slide, so that shows the existing site survey. We got in touch with the landlord, who owns like the row of tenants over there, and Nouvelle Maison will be a part of that. We are doing minimal exterior work and nothing beyond the existing sight lines. So that's just for additional information. That's the proposed exterior views. Just basically a fresh coat of paint, refresh on materials, and otherwise matching materiality as much as possible. The storefront windows will be replaced to match existing, so visibility inside will be maintained. There will be logos applied to the front of the windows, but just as indicated. So there won't be any visibility changes there. So those are kind of our notes for that. Moving on.
That's pretty much it, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Any questions or comments from the board?
It doesn't look like design review changed much. Are we missing a change it looks similar to what you presented before?
Design review did not provide us with any changes than they wanted to see. So we've maintained it.
I think it's great. I'm excited.
Good. We are too. I'm very excited about the cheese and wine.
Okay. If there are there any other further comments, or is there a motion to approve design review for this CBD number 30?
I so move.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay. I Ching?
Aye.
Sally?
Aye.
Carrie?
Aye.
Nick?
Aye.
And I say aye as well. Good luck, and we really want to see you folks open up.
Thank you so much. We hope to see you there.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Bye.
Our next agenda item is we are looking at.
Is this the Starbucks?
This is for the treatment.
This is for Starbucks.
Starbucks.
Is anyone from Starbucks here? I hadn't heard from them, so I asked if anyone here, raise your hand. I don't think so though. I asked for them to, but it doesn't look like they're here. So
Did they submit anything?
no.
Well, maybe we could give for those who aren't familiar with what's going on. Taylor, you want to give us a
I can give
overview?
an update. So I don't know as to why they didn't appear tonight, but we have been working with them to change two things. The first is the tint, which is currently a gradual tint or a gradient tint on the Main Street windows. To find a revision of that, they're going to provide a new tinting application that lowers the amount of that. And the second will be working with the Winchester Cultural
District,
soon to be Winchester Arts, to put a mural up on the Thompson side. The only thing with the mural is that it does need to ultimately be approved by Starbucks corporate, but they are willing to allow us a lot of design freedom and flexibility, and we just can't have any political statements, or we can't write "I hate Starbucks" on it. But otherwise, it's they seem to be pretty receptive to our requests. I don't know why they didn't show up tonight.
So I think one of the things this is, I think, brought out is the fact that so the concern for those out in TV land who don't know what we're talking about is that on the Starbucks on Thompson Street and Main Street, they've essentially turned all of their windows opaque, and there's a very large chunks of glass. And one of the things this planning board in the past, and one of the things we've directed by our design guidelines, I believe, is that we want businesses to enliven the street, and we have not been pleased with businesses blanking out their glass, because it certainly turns it into a wall. But if you look at other towns' zoning bylaws where they describe things like how much of a window must be transparent and which sections of the window should be transparent, there are some really good development. What's the correct word I'm looking for?
Standards.
Thank you. Development standards that I think the board should consider to make it better understood what enliven the street means, and to give people some firm guidelines so that they understand what they need to do. And I think that right now it's so vague that it's impossible to know what you're supposed to do. So I think that's something the board should consider. But since there's no one here from Starbucks, all we can do is hope that they will go along with it.
Was there anything about the last conversation we had with them that was date certain? I remember that he was going to take it back to corporate, and he said, "I'm sure we can do something to meet your needs." And that was, but I don't remember if there was anything date certain. And did he know that we were going to talk about it again tonight and hear back from him about it?
Yeah, they did know. They knew that we were on the calendar, and they've been receptive and communicative up until now. So I'm gonna give them the benefit of the doubt right now, because they have been willing to work with us so far, and they have been on time with everything. We did actually reschedule this. This was supposed to be 2 weeks ago, but we moved it because 3A. Yeah, I think we should give them another chance, because they have actually even been proactive about this. They've been calling me and wanting to get on top of it. But there is no date certain, to be fair.
So there's no motion. What I would suggest, Taylor, is that when you put it on the next agenda that it's on, that we know for sure they're going to come.
Yep.
Yeah.
I will make sure of that.
Okay, thank you. Are we actually ahead of ourselves now? We have an 830 ZBA petition, number 4008. This is 231 Ridge Street.
And I see that Jay Olmsted is here.
Yeah, so this is we reviewed this petition a couple weeks ago. I can't remember exactly when. And the board issued we recommended unfavorable action to the ZBA. The petitioners are back, and why don't we hear first from the petitioners so they can describe what changes, if any, they have made? I shouldn't say what changes, if any. There are definitely changes. That was just a pat phrase. I apologize. So is there someone who is going to speak for the petitioners? Everyone who is here for the petitioners, please raise your hand, your electronic hand. That way Taylor can make sure that you all get the right to speak. So why don't you lead off? Somebody from the team lead off.
We're thank you for letting us come and chat again. We felt like last time we didn't bring Jay, who's our landscape architect, to be able to answer the real questions about the design. And so Jay's here today to maybe more clearly express what was going on with the project.
When we spoke last time, there were assumptions made about the project and about the wall itself that were I think either the drawings were unclear, or there was a misunderstanding, and the wall was thought to, and the fence were thought to be much higher and much more intrusive than they in truth are. Similarly, a lot of the discussions we had were not focused on the ZBA portion of it. They were focused on other options, and so we want to just pass on to Jay and let Jay kind of present what he has.
Okay. Do you need to take control of the screen and screen share, or how do you want it? You are muted, sir.
Mute, but it's oh, there it goes. Great, thank you. Can I share my screen, or should I just use the one that Taylor has on?
Please do.
Okay. Okay.
We've got about 15 minutes for this, if I can count.
Yes. So I was not at the last meeting. I apologize. My name is Jay Olmsted. I'm a landscape architect. I lived in Winchester for 27 years. And this project is on Ridge Street, at the top of the hill on Ridge Street. And this is the survey plan, and I've highlighted all the existing walls that are on the property now. But let me step back quickly. I think from the last meeting, there was some misunderstandings about what we were proposing. So I'm going to try to clarify that for everybody here. So I don't think, it's not that we have changed anything. It's just that let's clarify what we are proposing, not what was presumed from the last meeting. So there are existing walls on the property now, and you can see, quickly, the area that we're talking about in making improvements here is in this area here. So here's Ridge Street. It's below the property sits above it. There's a driveway that comes up, and there's a single family house on the property. So this is the driveway looking up at the house, and this is from Ridge Street looking at the house. You can see the existing retaining walls that are on the property. This gives a sense of scale. You can see a person. So these walls down here on the lower left image are 4 feet tall. And then in the lower right image, where my cursor is the area that we were proposing to make some improvements. And the goal is to make a flatter area for the children to play on the property. And so this is another plan. Here's the house here. Ridge Street is along this edge. And here's the proposed wall that we are proposing here. It starts at 0 feet. It dies into grade here. It progresses up to 4.5 feet. And then over here where we have some stairs that go up, this height of the wall here is 4 feet. And there's an existing wall right here that comes in that this all ties into. So here's a picture from Ridge Street looking up, and you can see the existing wall, the existing walls here, and then the new wall that we're proposing here. And I'll tell you a little bit about the yellow line in a minute. But you can kind of see they're a similar scale. I think one of the areas that was confusing was this detail, which was provided by the structural engineer. And it says that the wall is 6.5 feet tall. And that, it's not clear, but that is intended to be, the structural engineer uses a standard detail and says, this design will work for a wall up to 6.5 feet. That's not what we're proposing to do, but that's how they design their detail. And so here's what we're proposing. This is an enlargement of the elevation that I had on the previous plans. So the railing, which is it's a guardrail, it's per code because of the height of these walls are over 30 inches. It would be 3 feet tall. I think there was some confusion in the last meeting that it was going to be proposed at 4 feet tall, from what I heard. And that the wall, the retaining wall that we're doing, is going to, as I said, ranges from 0 inches to 4.5 feet. And so I had this yellow line here to show you, you've seen this image before as well. Right now, the wall has not been backfilled against. And so portions of this wall are going to be buried. Just when we finish construction, we're going to be backfilling up against the wall. So again, this is the highest point, and this will be 4.5 feet. And then it tapers down to 4 feet over there. You also saw this image last time, but what I've added is I've added this figure, a person, to show this is a 6 foot tall person, and to show you the scale of the wall that would be built here, and that's what we're proposing. So I hope that is information. I'm happy to answer more questions and clarify if I can more, but that's the scale of the wall that we're proposing to do. One more point I wanted to make. The existing slope is around 11%. It varies 10 to 11%. And we're going to bring it to around 3%. So the change in grade is roughly 8%, so 2% higher than your threshold. The overall area that we're impacting is roughly around 2,000 square feet.
I just wanted to point out also in the package that we've submitted, since the last meeting, we've also received letters of endorsement and support from all of the neighbors who are abutting the project, both directly at 237 Ridge, as well as the neighbors in the back who...
You can actually see their house like in the drawing behind the person. There's only like one property that we weren't able to reach that abuts the property, but that's because the property owner is deceased and
or at the very least
they're not there. Like the property, as we understand it, being like managed by their older child, but no one is living in the residence.
Okay, thank you very much. Are there any questions or comments from the board?
I think Jay is right that I think we assumed that the wall was 6'6" from the drawings prior. So thank you for clarifying that it's 4.5 at its tallest.
Thank you.
Just out of curiosity, Jay, and you've done work in town before, I wonder, do you know why it didn't trigger a site plan review?
I was not aware of this part of the ordinance, and so I blame myself. I've done 2 site plan reviews with architects in town. One of them dealt more with the Conservation Commission issues, and I handled that part. The other one dealt with the fact that the existing house was over 5,000 square feet. And so we went through that. But I have not come up against it. Was aware, and neither of those projects had anything to do with changing grade greater than 6% over 500 square feet.
Thanks.
So what I remember of the conversation from last time was, one, that people were concerned about the wall being too tall, which is understandable given the confusing detail. And two, people were concerned that something that's in a published bylaw wasn't known about, and that's human error. And perhaps the planning board can think about ways to make our bylaw more accessible or more well-known, or a cheater's guide to the Winchester zoning bylaw, but we don't really have time to do that right now. But the third thing that came up in the meeting was a concern expressed, and I don't remember by who, that this was continuing a trend of a very unfortunate radical terraforming of the landscape of our town. And I'm like, I personally didn't agree with that statement. And I personally understand that mistakes can be made. And I personally thought the wall was pretty high, but you've addressed that issue. So I was the no vote in the last meeting. No, meaning that I did not want us to recommend to the Zoning Board of Appeals unfavorable action on the site plan. And I still don't. I think it's very nice what you're producing for them, and I appreciate the additional graphics that show the height of the safety rail and the height of the wall. And I think that, you know, Winchester's a hilly town. There's hilly towns all over New England, and lots of people use retaining walls, and these are really attractive walls. They're really nicely done. So I don't have any other comments other than to just revisit the last conversation and say I appreciate you clarifying.
Thank you, Sally. Anything from anyone else?
I mean, I drove down Ridge Street to Ridge Road today, which I haven't done in a while, and I want to think a little more. I mean, I absolutely, as a homeowner and a parent, I absolutely understand, like, you want a relatively flat yard so your child is not constantly running into Ridge Road to get their ball back. Like, I absolutely understand what you're doing here. And to Sally's point, it's a lovely wall. You know, stone walls are so New England, and they're perfect for the character of the town. It's a very hilly road, and the sort of the character of the property is just rolling hills and, you know, homes perched on top of them, and your house stands out because of the tiered walls. And so they're not unattractive, but I want us to make sure that as a planning board, we're thinking to ourselves, this will be the street. Like, you know, as soon as somebody does it, you know, someone else is like, well, I'm really sick of getting the ball out of the road. And so we will over time see, I think, more, you know, we're sort of setting again that sort of precedent that, like, it's okay to change the grade as long as it's a cute wall. That street will look really different with this many walls on each property. And at least it should have come up for discussion. We should have been, I think the way the project unfolded is not great. And I don't know if we want that for, I think on this project, because of how it sort of came before us, and because of it's a bit out of character for the neighborhood to have this much of the property sort of occluded by stone wall. I don't think my vote is changing either.
Thank you, Carrie. Nick Reaching.
I mean, I have more to say, but Nick, did you want to say anything?
Nick, can you hear us?
I'm sorry. So I just said that Carrie makes a very compelling point as well. I listened to Sally's comment, and that seemed to be something that I'd agree with. But
Nope, you've just turned yourself off again, Nick.
Yeah.
so I'm trying to make sense of what would happen if we voted against. I mean, this particular wall is well put together and looks attractive.
We are Nick, we're an advisory board, and it's up to the ZBA to make a determination if if there is remediation required. That's their brief, not ours.
Right. Right.
I think, Nick, are you done?
Yeah, I'm done. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Sorry. I thought you were.
Sorry about that. I was thinking. I'm not sure where to go on this one.
Okay. I Ching?
I think Carrie's point is clear. I think that's what's happened with Highland in a lot of ways. There's some very extreme walls going up on Highland, or have gone up for years. And as a neighbor to a wall that happened without review, it was very concerning for me to see this go up without review. But I think the point of review is to be able to have context within the neighborhood with the neighbors, and to be able to comment on things. And I think that I'm reluctant a little bit because I did not drive by like Carrie did. And I think that the materiality is nice, and the way that they approached the neighbors was quite nice. Though neighbors change, and I'm leaning towards it sets a precedent. True, and I do think that Carrie is right in that things will start to change more and more. It's going to be tiered. A lot of stone materials going up in a vertical way along Ridge Street, and it sort of really does change the character of it. I'm reluctant, but given some of the responses from the neighbors and the materiality, I think I'm leaning towards more favorable action.
Jing, can I just add one thing? I'm sorry to interrupt. I do want to let you know we did also share the plans with our neighbors prior to any of the construction beginning. As Jay said, we weren't aware. I'm a school teacher and Jim's an attorney. We're rule people. If we knew that this rule existed, I think we obviously would have done things very differently. But just so you do know, we did share all of Jay's initial designs with any of the neighbors that abutted. And everyone said oh, that's great. That sounds awesome.
We had face-to-face conversations, and if they gave them the opportunity to raise any issues, just like our neighbors next door were putting in their pool, they had a face-to-face conversation with us about their pool next door. So it's the kind of neighborhood we have.
Yeah, we formalized it by getting the letter so that we could share them more formally with the ZBA. But I do just want to say that we did completely share them. So we love our neighbors.
Thank you. Can I? So I think I want to say from the outset, it's really not your job to know the ins and outs of the zoning. So the fact that you are not zoning experts, don't hold that. This should not have happened, and I don't know why it wasn't caught at the town end, but this is definitely something that we have to understand why this wasn't flagged. So as homeowners, you don't think that you have to know the ins and outs of the zoning. That's not your job.
Well, here's a question, Diab. Did you go to the building department?
Sally, can I just want to keep going?
Sorry.
And then, so could you tell me when you first submitted your project to the building department?
We submitted because we knew we had to go through the site plan review. We submitted documents in mid-January. So we started talking to the building department in early December.
Okay, so this is something which occurred just a few months ago, and you were actually able to get the wall constructed over the last couple of months?
It was built during December, and
okay, thank God for climate change.
It was built, and then when the building department told us to stop, we stopped and went through the proper process, which we didn't know we were not adhering to. So that's, I
Yeah,
take that blame.
I don't know that it's your blame to take. I think that it's, you know, obviously something happened. You know, the fact that this is in December, I think we have to understand why the process broke down. It certainly has worked in the past. We've certainly seen projects come before us with walls before they were built where we've commented. And, you know, one of the benefits of having a discussion prior to building is that comments can be incorporated, and we've often seen projects greatly improved because of that review. So I think this is on the town to understand what happened. So personally, I don't find the wall unattractive. I mean, it looks nice. I guess I shouldn't say a sort of a backhanded compliment. It is attractive. I am, however, concerned, as is Carrie, about the changing of the topography, the remaking of the landscape. Many of the older homes were designed to fit in with the undulations in the landscape. There were certainly some parts of town that were bladed and made nice and flat, but in a lot of areas, homes were built to take into account the natural settings. And in order to retain some of that feel, it's important that we consider that the topography is something you work with rather than you change. So I still see this, in my mind, I think this is too large of a change in topography. You've certainly relieved my concerns about the height of the wall and the impact on the abutters. As Eaching pointed out, owners come and go. And so what one person sees as acceptable, the next person may see as unacceptable. So one of the things that the planning board has to look at is, you know, we're looking, you know, multiple homeowners down the line. So I really, you know, I'm torn, as Nick is, because you have put a lot of work into this wall. I don't think that it's, you know, this is, I would not like to see this removed, and just because I don't think that through no fault of your own, you didn't go through this didn't go through a review process. So I think that there's got to be some acknowledgement that this is just something which went awry elsewhere. But I'm not a fan of the change in topography. I just don't think that we're losing a lot of our natural slopes, and you know, topography and hydrology are connected. And so that's my stand. So I think, is the board ready to take a vote? I mean, the board can, I mean, let's see what's possible. If the board is conflicted about which way to go, we could either rescind our previous motion and just say we have new information and we're even more confused than before. We could vote to endorse. We can vote to recommend. We could recommend unfavorable action, or we can recommend favorable action, or we could take no action, in which case the previous recommendation would stand. So I guess those are four things we could do.
Well, you want me to make a motion, Dia? Is that?
If someone would love to, I would love it for someone to make a motion.
Okay, I would like to make a motion that the planning board recommend favorable action on the site plan as reclarified by Jay, and understanding that we were not in favor of having our zoning bylaw not adhered to, but that it could have happened as a function of internal office or internal town procedures, and that I recommend that I move that we recommend favorable action to the Zoning Board of Appeals.
Okay, is there a second to that motion?
in principle, I'm aligned with Diab and Carrie. In sympathy for how much work has gone into this, I don't want this to be then going forward how neighbors see this. So if they got it, we're going to get it too, kind of a thing too. So I'm torn.
So maybe there's a fifth option, which is that we write down, we express our concerns about the failure in the process, and
But I think you also need to express your concerns about the dissatisfaction with the design itself, if that's what's driving your objection.
Yeah, I'm not only concerned about the process. It's a great looking wall, but it's a lot of wall.
I mean, design meaning the whole massing as well as the materials, yes. And that would need to be articulated in your letter to the Zoning Board of Appeals so that they can take that into consideration.
so I could start drafting something, writing down a few statements, and I don't know that there's.
We don't have a second on the motion right now.
Yeah, Dan, you have to decide if the motion dies or not.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I apologize.
So I can, if somebody doesn't, if somebody doesn't.
I don't want to see the wall come down at this point, but I don't want to see a whole lot go up, I suppose.
I can withdraw my motion and simply say that we move to make a statement to the Zoning Board of Appeals that while the majority of the board feels that the walls are overly massive, even though they're very beautifully constructed, all of the board feels it was really unfortunate that this happened in terms of getting through the building department without being flagged for site plan review. And that tell the Zoning Board of Appeals, we don't want this to happen again. We don't want massive walls, but we don't want to force people to tear down a wall either. So that's what we're putting in your hands, Zoning Board of Appeals.
That sounds pretty much what I would have written. So thank you, Sally.
You're welcome. Yeah.
I guess I can second that.
Okay. Any further discussion? Then we will take that statement, and that's the motion. That we will.
Do we vote on that now? That you're voting yes. We want to make a statement to the ZBA.
Yes, we are voting. We are voting to take an action, and that action is to submit a
statement.
A statement to the ZBA concerning. I mean, I think the key things that you pointed out are the breakdown in the process, the concern about the change in topography, that we do find the wall to be visually appealing, and you know, it is a nice looking wall.
But I heard concerns that that the overall amount of wall on the property, and as high as they are and as many as they are, was the aesthetic concern that was having some members of the board say to recommend unfavorable action.
Yeah, so I have, let me try to read my scroll. Breakdown in process, the change in topography, we find the wall visually appealing. We are concerned about the mass of the wall, mass and length of wall, I should say. I guess that's...
Well, it's the aggregate of all of them is what I heard in our last meeting.
And then we were concerned about precedent setting.
And,
that we,
and in the motion, we're concerned about making someone take down a really nice wall because of potentially no fault of their own.
yeah, and I think that we should state that remediation, if any, should not negatively, well, no, I'm putting
Leave
words
it
in
to them,
everyone's
that's
mouth.
their job.
Yeah, but we don't, that this was done. We are, oh, give me a nice sentence. Say that again, Sally, please.
Well, the thing that the thing that's holding the board from saying to the Zoning Board of Appeals, unfavorable action, is that we understand that there was an administrative failure potentially at the town level, and that they should have had site plan review. And if they had, before they dug anything, we would have wanted them to address some of the concerns that we raised, which included that the walls are in aggregate over the whole property massive. There's a lot of them. And we are concerned that that sets a precedent of taking and changing the visual character of the town as people terrace their properties across town. And that was what I'm not saying it well. I'm not giving you a beautiful.
No, the statement you made about not wanting to tear this new wall down.
Oh, that one, yeah. Yeah, right. You want me to say that, or you just
the board does.
The board recognizes that
feel that the new wall should be removed. Is that precise
given the
enough?
amount of work and given the quality of the craftsmanship, the workmanship.
And was that statement okay with the board? Okay, so that thing is the motion. And Sally, you moved, and Nick, I believe you seconded. And so let's do a roll call vote. I Ching?
Aye.
Nick?
Aye.
Sally?
Aye.
Carrie?
Aye.
And I say aye as well. Okay, so I'm sure you folks wished we'd come out with a strong endorsement. I really wish this process had gone the way it should have, in which case I think we probably could have come up with something to make this board happy, but good luck as you go forward with the ZBA. At the very least,
we appreciate your time and letting us take up more of your already busy schedule. So thank you for just even humoring us again and your time.
That's very gracious. Thank you.
Thank you. Good luck and have a good evening. So we are now, somehow we managed to be 10 minutes late again. So I don't know how we keep doing this. So what we have, the rest of our schedule, our agenda this evening is to take up with the META 3A presentation. And the top thing on our agenda is to take up once again or the first thing I should say is take up once again to get a revised economic feasibility analysis so that we can consider, or we can attempt, or we can. One of the things that did not happen was we did not extend the same inclusionary zoning requirements that are in the CBD to the overlay district. We had, previous planning boards had extended it to the GBD2 and GBD3, and it was always as far as I recall, it has always been the goal of this planning board to have the same inclusionary requirements in the overlay districts. However, because they are we have provisions in ours which are not in the states. We needed to get an economic feasibility analysis. The state paid for some consultants for a variety of reasons, which we have yet to fully understand. The consultants did not provide an analysis of our existing CBD inclusionary zoning. So we are stuck at this point in terms of what we present to town meeting in terms of, so we
Can
talked.
I just,
Yeah.
after you're done, I just need to bring up something.
Okay. So we have some funds left in that we could use to have the consultant revisit our actual CBD zoning to find out which parts of it are possible and how we would tweak it in order to make it comply at a higher level of inclusivity or a percentage of units than we do now. I think I messed that up. But I know the Housing Partnership Board had a meeting on Thursday, and they were very concerned with the fact that the level of inclusivity is actually going down in the overlay districts. They worked hard and long to get it to where it is. And they are very concerned about that and some other issues, but that was one which I think is something we can help with in the long run. So although we can't predict what the next planning board will do, certainly three of us are on this board, on the next board, and I think we all share. Well, hopefully we share. I will not speak for the rest of you. I would like us to see the move forward and get the inclusionary housing to where it should be, so that's equal. So the idea would be for us to make a statement of support for getting the inclusionary housing in the overlay districts for 3A to be the same or as close as possible to what's in the CBD, to direct the economic feasibility analysis consultants to work with the chair of the Housing Partnership Board, John Serbier, who's with us this evening, as well as the town planner, to derive a scope of work which would be so clear as to be impossible not to complete as written. And that we don't know the time scale for that. It's quite probable that it won't be done prior to Springtown meeting, so we would not be able to bring this a change to town meeting, but this is something that we would, I would hope, become a priority of the next board to bring it to an early future town meeting. And that's that first agenda item. Both Carrie
if I have something that's time sensitive, if I could interject, because I know this thing is going to print on the 1st, I think. Is that right, Taylor?
This has already been printed.
It's been printed?
Well, it's already gone to print, yeah.
I thought it was going to go on the 1st.
No, I mean, you might be thinking about the background station.
There was an insert, since we voted, there was an insert of a sentence that we didn't vote on, and Jay Tellerman added, apparently. I don't know.
Nick, can we please deal with this first, and then we have the rest of the evening to discuss that sentence?
No.
This is the first thing on the agenda.
There's a sentence that says the design guidelines are non-binding, which was not in there when we voted.
Nick, please, can we just deal with this? This is the first thing on our agenda to deal with is the EFA. So we can deal with that in the next 2 minutes, and then we can continue with the other one. We have an hour, and we have as much time as you want after this. Let's just get this done. So is the board willing to reiterate what it said last time? We can put a motion out there to direct the Housing Partnership Board Chair.
Here's my concern, Diab. I didn't know that in this period between when the warrant article is published, which was the April 15th deadline, and when the warrant article is taken up on the floor of town meeting, which is April 29th, that there would not, I'm hearing you say that there's not the possibility to bring this to the floor if we can't get the feasibility analysis done in time.
That is correct. If we do not have the feasibility analysis, we cannot.
So that's a month away. Why does it take that long to get that?
I don't know whether it's possible.
Well,
I'm merely stating the possibilities of, I don't know. I'm just laying out that it may or may not be possible.
Well, I would support your statement that the planning board would make a statement that our goal is to have the inclusivity requirements in the MBTA overlay districts be the same as they are in the CBD and in the current GBD2 and GBD3 zoning. And if we make that statement at town meeting and say that hopefully by then we will have and have underway a feasibility analysis, that they would be able to vote favorable action on the whole thing. I don't want this to tank the entire 3A.
I don't think it will. I think that we cannot, if we don't have the feasibility analysis, then we cannot amend this at town meeting.
But we can make a motion that we wish to.
We can wish to, but it's up to the next planning board to make that a statement of fact. So what this board can do is to authorize the revised EFA to go forward and to make a statement of support. And the next planning board could make another statement of support. But the authorization for the analysis can go forward now. It doesn't have to wait.
Good.
So that's what I'm hoping we can do this in 2 steps or 1 step, but I think it's important that the Housing Partnership Board understands the will of this board to pursue the inclusionary.
I mean, are we committing the board to a certain course of action after?
No. We are not committing the board. We are authorizing a study, and we are stating the will of this board, but we cannot commit the next board.
Right. That makes sense to me.
Yeah, so we just need that as a motion.
I would love that to be a motion. One can simply say so moved.
So moved.
Is there a second?
I second that.
And so let us roll call vote, please. Sally?
Yes.
Nick?
Aye.
I Ching?
Aye.
Carrie?
Aye.
And I say aye as well. Okay. So let us move on to your point, Nick.
So I guess since we voted on this document, there was a line added that's causing a furor among certain town meeting members. And I think I might understand maybe why, but I don't think it was necessary. It's a statement on page 5 of the amendment at the bottom, where it says the design guidelines are non-binding. I don't think we had to say that. And I think that that's sort of stabbing ourselves in the back. I'm really upset, and I think there are a lot of people that are upset that that's in there. The understanding was that I thought this was going to print on Monday, but I don't know. You're telling me it's already gone to print?
Yeah, what it was is what's going to print on Monday is the motion book, which gets mailed to all the town meeting members, and it contains the background statement for the motions, and the warrant itself is printed already.
Okay, so I guess this was just really unfortunate.
Yeah, I don't
something
think
that
they knew
substantive
that
was
sentence
added since we voted.
That's correct. I agree.
So we have had conversations with town council about why this was added.
I don't really. Well, all right.
Well, we need to understand why, Nick.
Okay.
So the key thing here is that we need to differentiate clearly between development standards and design guidelines. So
we're allowed to have design standards or development standards. They can be clear, objective.
Yes, we are allowed to have development standards, and those can be in the bylaw, and they are clear and objective, and those are binding.
We can have objective criteria for roofs, dormers, windows. That it seems like no effort was made to do that. We had Emily Innes, who strikes me as very unqualified to write these. We should have had Michael Wang do it, and I don't know why, other than she probably had more money left over because we spent all of Michael's time attending meetings that of questionable value. I just think that this is very upsetting.
So we have development standards and design guidelines.
We don't have design guidelines. We have.
Can I finish, Sally, please? Sally, may I finish my sentence, please?
My apologies. I'm sorry.
No, I mean, there's the distinction between the two are that development standards are precise, objective. They can go into the bylaws, and those are binding. Design guidelines, as described by the sample zoning from the state, are not part of the bylaw, and they have to meet the same criteria as site plan review. And because you cannot deny a project based upon site plan review or design guidelines, they are, as far as I can tell from my understanding what town council says, they are technically non-binding. Now,
I don't think we had to state that, though. I think it just seems gratuitous to have that in there.
I don't disagree with you.
And I think that the developer is going to jump all over it now. And you know, we were promised design guidelines back when we were talking about the maps, and you said, "Oh, don't worry about the maps. You're going to get design. The design guidelines will take care of it all." Now we have nothing, and Michael Wang did nothing because we didn't tell him to do it.
So
and Emily didn't do it because she's not qualified.
So design guidelines. You know, Nick, we've been working at this for what, a year and a half? And, you know, okay, I'm not going to say that. The wording is unfortunate, but to be quite clear, design guidelines, according to our town council, do not bear the same weight as do development standards. I have discussed that wording with him, trying to understand the phrasing, but he says that technically design guidelines are non-binding.
How can that be when it says shall, Diab?
It's not a question of what the language says, it's what the law says.
He shouldn't have put that in there.
And so, you know, if the board wishes to remove the language, the question is, does it change the actual outcome? According to legal, the presence of those phrases does not change the outcome. That design guidelines are not binding as would the development standards.
Can I ask which section of this document design guidelines is referring to? Or is it referring to a subsequent regulatory document that the plan?
It is. Taylor, could you please put up the latest version of the?
It's page 5.
Yeah, I don't think that it would change the outcome, but it could change the tenor of town meeting discussions.
I agree. And so what I've been trying to get from legal is whether this is, you know, just, you know, if there is a distinction, because to be honest, I still am having trouble understanding how something, for instance, a site plan review, you cannot deny a project under site plan review, but you can't put reasonable conditions, which seem to me to make something binding, because otherwise you couldn't put a condition on.
Yeah, so, but I think splitting hairs over the definitions is not going to fix the problem with the tenor of town meetings this sentence is producing.
I agree.
We can justify ourselves all day long, and it's not going to fix that.
But I agree, Nick, but I think there's also a question that we have to understand coming before town meeting. If someone says, if you say these are non-binding, then how is site plan review not binding? I think there is I mean, in my opinion, I think that's a question that I would have. So if we, you know, again, so here, where is the design guideline statement?
Okay, at the bottom of page 5, just above where it says 3 dot site design, there is a design guidelines may contain graphics. This is the first reference in this whole bylaw to capital D, capital G design guidelines. And it should say design guidelines may be put forth in regulations to be promulgated by the planning board.
It does at the
and may
end.
contain graphics illustrating a particular standard or definition to make it clear and understandable. And when you do that and you make those regulations, you have basically for the MOD the same thing that we have with the design standards if you were doing something in the CBD. Now, I agree with Nick that I don't want to see this design guidelines are non-binding statement in here. If it happens to be true, it happens to be true, but let's not, as I Ching said, incite the vote, the voting membership by saying that. We don't say it in the CBD design regulations, and that passed. And we discovered what it means that we discovered what it means that they're discretionary. And you know that I'm the dissenting vote on that. But if you go to the next
can we take it out even though it's been printed?
Yeah, we can make a movement. We can make a motion to amend it.
Yes.
So what would happen is we would move this evening if we wanted to we would. Okay, now this is where I think it gets a little tricky because the planning board that is presenting this to town meeting is not this planning board. And so I think we could make a motion to amend it and present that. And then we'd have to ask town council if that was legal or not because the next planning board may not want to do it. I don't know, but I think we can go ahead and
I don't agree that that is an issue. I think if the seated planning board makes a vote, the planning board.
Right. We just voted on the housing thing. Why can't we just vote on this? I mean, we're here.
But what I would do is when we bring it to the floor of town meeting as a motion to amend the bylaw, that we say in this paragraph that we will be creating design regulations because that is what we said we would do. And
I think it Taylor, if you go to the end of this, there is a statement saying that. Or there used to be.
Severability? Is that what you're talking about?
8-11-11.
changes. Yeah, we discussed that. We put that line in so that we could.
Planning board may adopt. See, they're called regulations. They're not goals. And it should say regulations including capital D, capital G, design guidelines. And then when you are earlier in the bylaw referring to capital D, capital G design guidelines, it should say per section 8.11.11 or produced by the planning board per section 8.11.11 may include graphics to make things more understandable. And I would move that we take out the statement that design guidelines are non-binding. It's the fact of the matter.
I mean, we've done lots of things along.
I would second that.
That we've done just because it's not going to be politically popular. I don't know if I understand. Legal didn't have a justification, so they just added this. Like there was no.
Like they were putting it in.
No.
The
Legal.
state example did not have this either, Carrie.
So let me tell you what legal said, if I can get to my email. And it was unfortunate that we were unable to have legal here this evening.
I should say.
But that's the way it is. So, I mean, this came up just over the last couple of days.
Well, when we put it on the website and people could read it.
Well,
it does seem like the catch-all is that the site plan review authority has to approve the plans, like sort of in totality. So it's a bit weird that they'd release just design guidelines.
So let me see if I can find the actual statement from legal. Okay. Okay, the bylaw uses that language, the language about it being non-binding, to equate the language to site plan approval.
What does that mean? To equate it?
It means that it follows the same, yeah, so.
Cannot be a basis for denying a permit or
right. While site plan review can result in conditions, it cannot result in a denial or conditions that are tantamount to a denial. This is an attempt to underscore that same premise.
Yeah, well, then it should say
right, it's an attempt. I would like to see it voted out.
So the question is,
the design guidelines paragraph needs to be rewritten, and the design guidelines are non-binding be deleted, and that it be cross-referenced with the regulations lowercase r. It should be uppercase that are referenced in 81111. And you can say in 81111, the planning board may adopt capital R regulations consistent with this bylaw, including capital D, capital G design guidelines. And then over here in 81172, we say the design guidelines and the regulations may contain graphics illustrating a particular standard to make everything clear, and take that sentence out.
So the other thing that legal said was that I asked how we could say this again without using the words non-binding. And his response was, you could expressly fold that into the site plan review process. So that, so as someone, I think, Sally, you already mentioned that. I'm just going through my notes from what legal said. So.
I mentioned putting it into the site plan review process.
He said you can fold them in because they're essentially similar. They both have the same sort of, you can put reasonable conditions, but you cannot deny.
Well, I think that's what it should say. And I'm looking at the site plan review section. It's at the bottom of page 9. It's 811.9, and then the text continues on page 10. And submission requirements, timeline. Oh, and you know what it is? It's in a paragraph. And I had hoped it would get broken out into a bulleted list. Let me find it. Where is that paragraph that just rambles?
Well, while you're looking for that, can you, Taylor, can you just search for the site plan review section?
It's 811.9.
Okay, so
there's a thing that says that the planning board can have an opinion about this, and this.
Right. So there must be something in here where it talks about. Please scroll to the next page, please.
Number 1, who we can consult with. Then it's just submission requirements.
It doesn't say anything about the ability to put in conditions.
So I think what you're looking for, Sally, is 811.7.2.
Okay, and all that A, B, C, D, E, F. It was at one point a crunched together paragraph and impossible to discern. And I had asked in bullets, and I guess they did. So if you look at the content of these things, the scale and proportions of buildings, and may only address. Okay, so what are we doing? The site plan review authority may address. There's the action verb. And what does it mean for us to be able to address A through F? And what it doesn't say in the subsequent paragraph is the reasonable conditions language. And so oh no, there's the design guidelines up above.
So it talks about design guidelines. Is there somewhere here where it states what,
Here they are. I'm sorry, I totally missed it that it was up. Jesus.
Yeah, so so we have design guidelines. They're fairly well defined in here in the sense of what they can address. So it's under site plan review authority, so it's already in that section. The only thing that I'm missing is where it says that you can put reasonable conditions.
I think it goes in that paragraph right there. So I think this is taken very much boilerplate from the state. And if this was written more in the language that we write in our own zoning bylaws, it would say, the site plan review authority within the MOD shall be the planning board, who may adopt and amend by simple majority vote design guidelines, which shall be applicable to all new construction within the MOD, right? Or under the, it's really under the MOD bylaw.
Sally, are you adding new language or are you simply reading what's in front of you?
No, I'm changing the language, Dia, because I realized that when he put design guidelines are non-binding, it brought much greater scrutiny, as it should have, to Section 81111 about the regulations, which are not capitalized, but they should be. And the regulations include the design guidelines. And so if we say here, the planning board who may adopt and amend by simple majority vote regulations including design guidelines, that would be in addition to 81172 on the third line. It would say by simple majority vote, regulations including design guidelines, which shall be applicable to all rehabilitation, development, or new construction. And it's not within the MOD, it's under the MOD bylaw. Because you can build something in one of those MODs and not have it be multifamily, not have it.
You can't. You would build it in the underlying district. It's within
I see.
the
All right, underlying. Okay, so within. But then you would say site design guidelines must be objective and not subjective, and it's going to address only these topics. Now, I think if you look at what Nick suggested, which was to take some of the graphics illustrating a particular standard or definition, which Michael Wang has provided to us a large pool to draw from, but we didn't create these regulations and design guidelines. Yet we said we shall, and we will address these A through F topics. The question is, how do we do that by town meeting?
We can't do design guidelines by town meeting. It's impossible.
All right, well, then I am recommending that we at least make clearer reference to them in 81172.
But see, 81172 already says we have design guidelines which we will promulgate. So it already says we have the authority to do so, and it describes what they are. So there's no need to.
So as long as we take out the last sentence.
So I think the key thing is the last sentence is really the crux. As Nick has pointed out, as we've heard from a number of people, that is language which is
inflammatory.
It's inflammatory.
Right.
And
thank you.
I agree. I just, the only thing that I want to make sure of is that, and you know, if we change, so one thing that Jay said is that if we change the language, we need to make sure that we're not changing it to make it less compliant. So simply removing this phrase, I think, does what we need without changing the compliance.
Right.
And that's important. So the other thing I find a little odd, which I only recognize, is that it doesn't talk about what the somewhere I thought we said something about reasonable conditions.
It doesn't have that in here anymore.
I can't for the life of me think of I don't think it ever had it in there.
No, it's in here. It says under definition, site plan review authority, the planning board is authorized to conduct site plan review and impose reasonable conditions as a result of the review.
Okay. Thank you for finding that interesting, and I would recommend that we put that in the language, not just in the definition section.
I don't think you do. I think that's redundant.
I think so. I think that I think it's if we remove it from the definition and put it in the body of that document, it's not redundant. So the definition of a site plan review authority is we conduct site plan reviews.
Right.
I don't know.
you take the second phrase, and impose reasonable conditions as a result of the review, and you move that by an amendment at town meeting to section 811.7.2. No, excuse me, where would we put it? We would put it in
It's under site plan review. Where the heck did it go?
811.9.
811.7.2.
So here's what's missing. In 811.9, there's this, after number 3, submission requirements, and number 4, timeline, it says that it doesn't say what we're doing once we've done the process. There's no deliverable. And the deliverable is an approval of site plan with reasonable conditions.
So yeah, I think that
Missing from the bylaw.
So I think that makes a lot of sense because it does sort of flow. So where should it go? Should it go before timeline?
It would go, yes, before timeline.
And should
I'm a little wary of making so many amendments to this because doesn't this already have that meaning? And the comments that we've been getting from the community is to just delete one sentence.
I agree with you, Ching, on that.
Okay.
I can go with that.
I think we left the door open to create design guidelines, and we don't have time to do it before town meeting. I think getting rid of I just don't understand what the non-binding sentence is for. I can't find a door that it opens that we're closing otherwise. So I think we get rid of that, and then we keep listening because we have some really attentive town people that will point out other big holes in this. But I think we've left the door open to create design guidelines. This is a concerning sentence, and the rest of it is.
Although I do think that there is missing from 811.7 a statement that what the planning board will do. So here's the authority, and then scrolling here. Let me just look at it on my paper one, so I don't have to watch the screen.
If we didn't have the conditions part in the definition, I would be on board, but let's not start revamping the document. I think we have the right. I'd start to worry about
Ching's point, you're saying.
Okay, so
yes.
I think we have a pretty much unanimous consensus as far as I can tell as how to move forward.
Do we vote?
You want to make the motion to remove the sentence?
I think, did you just make that motion, Nick?
I did.
Is there a second?
I second it.
Okay, so the motion is to remove the phrase, the design guidelines are non-binding from 811.7 last paragraph. Well, it's really not part of 2.
Oh, you're right, 811.7.
So it's the last paragraph in 811.7. So we have a motion, we have a second. Let's do a recall vote. No, a roll call vote. Sorry, brain's futzing. Nick?
Aye.
Carrie?
Aye.
Yi-Ching?
Aye.
Sally?
Aye.
And I say aye as well. Okay. My understanding in my discussions with legal was he was trying to clarify this. He wasn't trying to change any meanings. So
that works well.
Well, he didn't change any meaning, but that didn't mean he didn't light a fire.
Can we either whoever might have noticed any other changes that we didn't catch? Is this sort of like identical?
I have Scrivener's errors to
No. I'm sorry. To be clear, are there other adjustments that legal made before sending off this final version?
No.
They just added that one sentence. I haven't put them side by side, so I'm just asking.
You would have to take the version that we looked at.
I know. Has anyone done that? I haven't.
On the 14th.
Taylor, do you know?
I looked at
I do not know if anyone has looked through it.
As far as we know, the only adjustment we made was that one sentence.
Sorry.
Okay.
So we need to know if this document that represents what went into the warrant exactly matches what we voted on March 14th, the night before the warrant was due, with the exception of the one sentence that we noticed that we didn't vote on, that we just voted out. That's what we need to know.
The vote was to incorporate changes by legal, which did not change the meaning of the document. Because legal,
so it didn't change the meaning, but it had other impacts.
I think legal is being very technically legal. So the political repercussions are separate from the legal repercussions. So
on the floor of town meeting, somebody's going to say, when does the planning board provide reasonable recommendations? We don't describe when we do that. Even though I Ching is right, we don't want to make too many changes to this. It's simply that we omitted to say that we would do that under 8.9.
Do what?
We would review the site plan and provide any reasonable conditions that they feel are necessary in the areas A through F as described in the site plan review authority paragraph. And then we go to the regulations and all of that.
But the reasonable conditions are project dependent. So for instance, if you look at the existing site plan review guidelines in our zoning bylaw, it doesn't say what reasonable is. It simply says that the authority has the ability to make them.
Right. I wasn't being specific about the reasonable conditions either. I was simply saying that they would relate only to A through F. Of 11.7.2. It's the A.
I think they have to, because that's the only thing that site plan review can.
Exactly. But the fact that we don't say that when we're talking about the process, and the process is described in 8.11.9, and it's not a contentious thing to bring to town meeting. It's to say, there was one point of the process that we did not articulate here. We articulated in the definitions. So if you want to know what it says, look in the definitions. But you could make the case that it's better to move it from definitions to 8.11.9. That's all.
Okay. So we voted on this change. The next thing it does is, I believe it goes to the town moderator, who will determine whether it substantially changes the meaning of the document. I'm a little fuzzy on whether she may decide that it is not a change to the meaning of the document. It's just a clarification. I don't know if that requires an amendment. I know that in the past you show up at town meeting and there's changed language and you just vote on the changed language. You don't have to vote to change language into the motion and then you vote on the revised motion. So there is some mechanism by which, if the language is not changing the actual article, it can be included. You don't have to go through the amendment process. So that's the next phase here.
Okay.
And
I think.
I mean, as long as it's ultimately gonna, we voted to take it out. If it comes up at town meeting, we say that, and then when we print out the final document after this is all said and done, it's not there.
Yes, if it's there, then that's it's a error in process, and we will fix it. It should definitely not be there.
Right. So I think we're good. I think we just have to wait and see what happens.
I mean, I still want to understand how you can have non-binding but with conditions. So that's still something my brain doesn't understand. But I will have to work that out with legal. Okay. So the other thing if we're done with that, the next thing we wanted to talk about, I believe, was a schedule for town meeting. And
we have to talk about the percentage here on Parkview.
Go ahead, please do. Yeah, I forgot about that.
So another potential edit that we'll need to make is this number here, 90%. I'm just going to show everyone. I don't know if anyone's ever seen it. Our actual model have you guys actually seen our model before? Like how it works?
No.
So this is our model. This is all of our final numbers here on our districts. Each district has individual numbers based off of every parcel in each district. So you go through each and it spits out the numbers. You basically give this spreadsheet all this data, yes and no's, numbers, FAR, all this junk. What I'm trying to get to is that we are, in order to comply with the state, we have to use this spreadsheet. And in order to do that, we're very bound to how this spreadsheet works. And in saying that, even the only way that we're able to apply the 318 existing units in Mod 4 Parkview is by making this number 70% instead of 90.
Can we vote on that right now and get it done in a minute?
If you would like to.
Can I make that motion that we change it to 70?
Can I actually? Sure. And I would second the motion, and then I would ask Taylor to explain to the people out in the audience where the 90 came from.
Why?
So
well, okay. Okay.
So I second. I can't second the motion.
You can't. Right.
Would someone please second Nick's motion?
I second the motion to change the 90 to a 70 and welcome discussion about how it got to 90.
I think it's important to understand why there's a 90 there and why 70 is not actually is not just trying to make us meet the state requirements.
Yeah, I mean, if the state requires 70% open space.
Sure, we can hear that.
The state doesn't require 70%. So, Taylor, please explain where the 90 came from.
So, based off of the FAR of 1, and based off of the dimensions of the building and the site, which is existing non-conforming, you get 90% open area of the lot. However, when inputting that percentage, the spreadsheet can't actually compute the numbers. So we have to tell the spreadsheet what the existing numbers are of that lot by using the 70 number.
But the other thing that I think is important is the 90 was the as measured open area. It does not reflect what the underlying zoning requires.
Right.
That's correct.
And
so
there was a point you made, Taylor. I didn't quite get it the first time you were talking just now. You said that if it's that the compliance model depends on documenting what's there now, or it depends on.
Well, that's just what we've chosen to do.
Oh, I see. Okay. Yes.
So we know that. So the 90%. We needed to put a number in there when we wrote the table for the bylaw, and so we decided to use the existing numbers when you measure it on the land, because Parkview is by special permit, and so what is the open area requirement? I don't think anyone knows. So we used the measured open area, which is 90%, and we did that for all of the ones we used, which had under special permits. But in order to get the numbers that we expect out of Parkview,
right?
If we enter 90%, you don't get the right numbers. You actually can't put Parkview there.
Right. So that's what they did.
Right. So that what that and it also says that you know, the 90% is as measured, but as we know, many properties across town have a much larger open space than is required. It's just the way it was built.
Right.
So a 70% open space for that lot is entirely reasonable.
Did we have a motion to propose that amendment to this bylaw?
We did.
I so move.
And Sally, you seconded it.
Oh, good.
So now now that we understand where this is coming from, and
That's
this is not
helpful.
It's not simply us trying to make the model work. It is, but it's also because we're using a number which is probably more representative of what the underlying zoning should be. I think that's so. I'm sorry.
You're saying that the underlying zoning, if it hadn't been done by special permit, it should have been 90?
No, it should have been something like 70.
Right. Okay. Good. Yes.
We don't have anything anywhere in town which has 90% open area. We don't. So it doesn't make any sense. But that's what we measured.
Maybe the golf club.
Maybe the golf club, but I don't think there's a requirement that it's 90%. It's just you wouldn't want to golf there if it were.
Good.
So we have a motion. We have a second. We've had discussion. Are we ready for the vote?
Yes.
So roll call vote then. Carrie.
Aye.
Yi Cheng.
Aye.
Nick.
Aye.
Sally.
Aye.
And I say aye as well. Okay. Anything else I've forgotten?
Is Scrivener's errors or I'm sorry, you should ask the other question first. I'm sorry, do you have
My other question was, Taylor, what else have I forgotten to bring up?
That's it.
And then we were going to talk about scheduling. I think we are going to we are going to schedule a meeting for town meeting members in mid-April. And then the ZRAC has been very gracious and very excited about trying to get us do some outreach for us. And I believe that is being planned. Taylor, you can tell me if I'm wrong on that, but I think that we're looking at doing that this week or next week. I can't remember what date it is next week.
What is the form of that?
The form of?
The outreach.
I imagine it's going to be a Q&A session, and it'll be held over Zoom so that more people can attend.
Yeah. Okay.
That would be my I would think that would be the easiest for town meeting members to get access to it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Maybe it's a first try on the presentation too.
That is hopefully going to happen. Yep. We can actually have a bit of a longer presentation because we have more time, but it'd be
keep it at
help
10.
us hone it. Yeah. The other thing that's coming up is we do have to have the motion booklet. We have to have the background for the motion, and that is due, I believe, April 1st. So Carrie has started she has written first draft.
So I wrote a draft that was deemed too long, but it might contain helpful content. I think you did see edits to it. You made edits to it. Good.
Yeah. So we need to so that's something to look at and work on over the next few days. I think that's it for this evening.
Except for, do I just give Taylor the Scrivener errors, or do I tell you what they are?
I would give them to Taylor.
Okay.
Taylor is the keeper of the Scrivener errors.
Okay.
At this point, unless someone else has something else they want to discuss, I want to again thank Sally and Yi Cheng. It has been a really fast 3 years. I can't believe it's been 3 years already. But what do you know?
Yeah. Thank you. It's been a privilege to serve with all of you and all those who were on the board over the past 3 years.
Yeah, it's been very eventful, but fast 3 years. And I do want to echo what Tia was saying about Sally. I think all of us know how much work it is to be on this board, but Sally, you took it really far, and you gave it so much. You gave this town so much. And really, really appreciate all the hard work, behind the scenes stuff. We're as researched as we are because of you, and as on time as we are because of you. And I really appreciate that. And Diab too. It's just such a tough 3 years, and you didn't want to be chair for like the last 2 years, and you still kept on. And I really think that that's really held us together, and appreciate all your leadership.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
And I thank you too.
Thank you. So with that, why don't we have Sally and I Ching move to adjourn? One of you can take the first and the second.
Go ahead, I Ching.
All right, I move to adjourn this meeting, sadly, and say a fond farewell to all of you.
And I second the motion.
Okay, and roll call vote. Nick.
Aye.
Gary.
Hi, thank you both, and good night.
Yes.
Sally.
Aye.
I Ching.
Aye.
And I say aye as well. Thank you all. Thanks to, who do we have left? Thanks to Recording Secretary Nancy Polcari. Thanks to Town Planner Taylor Herman. Oh, thanks to Matt Schumann, Town Engineer. Thanks to WinCam for recording us as usual. Much appreciated.
And John Sevier. He's here.
And John is here. I want to say thanks to John for sticking with us and keeping us on the straight and narrow. We will see. Good luck to everyone who was elected this evening to the planning board. We will see you in 2 weeks. Our first meeting is April the 9th, I believe. Have a great couple of weeks, and we'll see you all then. Good night, everyone.
Night.
Record.